Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I give you the opportunity to test your comic book grading skills up against actual results from CGC. Now this video I have been waiting 3 months to make, and the day is finally here. This is my follow-up video to my CGC unboxing nightmare. Now, the response to my original video has been really great, and I appreciate it so much. At the time of making this video, it has something like 1,700 views, and I went from having 8 subscribers to 122 subscribers. Now, I'm not going to be famous on YouTube anytime soon, but that's a lot of growth as far as I'm concerned, and I really appreciate it. Thank you all so much. I also appreciate all the comments that you put on the video. They were really supportive and really compassionate, and made me feel like I didn't go through it alone, that you felt my pain for me. So thank you to all of you who did that, who watched, who commented, who liked and subscribed. Thank you. Now this video might be a little bit long today, but I think it's important information, so I suggest that you stick around and watch the entire thing. It's going to be presented in 3 parts. The first part is going to be my customer service story. The second part is going to be the unboxing. And the third part, we're going to do a little post-grading analysis. We're going to take a look at the books after pressing and cleaning and encapsulation, compare them up against the grades we received, and basically see if we can't feel that the grades were justified. So let's jump right in with the first part of this video, and that is my customer service experience. Now, after making my original video and doing my unboxing, I was clearly not happy, with good reason. So I contacted customer service, but I remained calm. I explained to them what the issue was. I told them that I had had very good experience with customer service at CGC in the past, and I really needed that to continue in this instance. She said she'd do everything she could to help me. She asked me to take photographs of the damage and the labels, which I did, and I sent to her. She got back to me very quickly and said, CGC's going to handle it. That included giving me a shipping label so that I could ship the books back to CGC at no cost to myself. It also came with detailed instructions on how to fill out a new order form using the mechanical error process. Now there's some very specific things that I had to do. I filled out the order form almost like any other order form where I had each book listed, I declared a value, I mentioned the special labels that I'm supposed to be getting, but I was told specifically to cross out all the dollar amounts so that I wouldn't be charged incorrectly. I also chose check as a payment option with all zeros for a check number. So basically they had no payment information on me, so I wouldn't accidentally get charged for anything. They also had me write the authorization code on there, mechanical error on there, and she had me write the issue with each book on the slip. As you see on the slip, damaged holder, damaged holder, damaged holder, damaged holder, damaged holder. But I also put an asterisk that said this book in particular, Uncanny X-Men 266, would need to be repressed and regraded. And that there was an email attached that went into detail about why that book had received damage that it didn't have originally. A point I'm going to make now, and I'm going to reiterate this later in the video. Everything that you expect to have happen from CGC, if unfortunately you have to go through an experience like this and have customer service and CGC fix something for you, make sure everything you expect to have happen is on this slip. If it's not on the slip, it's not going to happen. I was on a Facebook group where somebody was also going through a repair situation at CGC and was told that their book would get repressed, but it didn't happen. And I said, was it on your original order slip for that return? They said, no, they put it in as a note to my account. I said, if it's a note on your account, it's not going to happen. It needs to be on that slip. In fact, one mistake that I made is that Fast Track should have been on that slip, but it wasn't. And because it wasn't, my book was not Fast Track. It sat there for a long time. So please, I implore you, if there's something you expect to see happen at CGC due to a repair, make sure that information is clearly stated on this order form. Another thing, customer service told me to track my submission back to CGC, and that when the books arrived back to CGC to let them know, because she was going to personally make sure that my books were handled immediately and appropriately. And she did. When they got back, I let her know, and immediately they were on their way to being taken care of. But this is where we started to stumble. Communication basically died. I would ask questions every few weeks, but I really wasn't getting a response. I had determined through context of looking at the online submission information that 4 of the books were being reholdered, and it sure did look like the 5th book was going to be repressed and regraded because it was going through the modern process rather than the reholdering process. Okay, that's fine. Weeks after weeks of passed, and I asked for more and more information. Eventually I found out that the 4 reholdered books had been taken care of. They were fixed and sitting at CGC waiting for the 5th book to get repressed and regraded. That was a little frustrating. I understood it, but it was frustrating. Those reholderings were done in a month. It was 3 months before the other one was done. So they sat there for 2 months waiting for the other one to go through its process. But I waited. I was patient. I contact them every now and again. One question I really wanted to get answered is I wanted their explanation for the damage to my Uncanny X-Men 266 that was not there when I first sent the book in. The grader notes had said that there was a light crease bottom right-hand corner on the front cover. I thought that that grader's note was probably written incorrectly and meant to say bottom left-hand corner. So I asked, please explain this damage. Please explain. I couldn't get an answer. Finally, after 9 weeks, I contacted customer service and said, listen, I've been waiting 9 weeks. I've been asking this question 4 times. I really want an answer. And also, I think it's about time we start talking about refunds and or credits. Well, at this point, customer service kicked my information over to Matt Nelson, primary grader at CGC. Now things were getting taken care of. He contacted me immediately and personally started taking care of things. He explained to me that the reason I got the 9.2 was because of a crease in the bottom right-hand corner, and that the crease in the bottom left-hand corner was due to impact damage. Now, this blew my mind on 2 fronts. One, that the impact had been so significant to cause the book to shift to that degree, to cause that level of damage. And also that there's enough room in the CGC holder that big of a crease could happen while it's inside its holder. That blew my mind. But he also sent me this picture of the crease in the bottom right-hand corner. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. There is a crease there. I think I knew about it when it was raw originally, but when I got it in its holder and I looked at it after getting the grader's notes, I didn't see that crease. But no, he's showing me a very good picture. It's there. So I was blown away that the impact damage caused the crease in the bottom left-hand corner, and I was also blown away that the press did not fix the crease in the bottom right-hand corner. He told me that the press should fix the crease in the bottom left-hand corner, no problem. And I said, but what about the bottom right-hand corner? Shouldn't it fix that as well? He then told me that he would personally make sure that everything was done in the pressing process to make those defects go away as much as possible. That's huge. A primary grader at CGC was making sure that the press was as productive as possible. That's great. I also at this point said, listen, I'm not a something for nothing guy, but I am a right is right guy, and I'm a fair is fair guy, and I think it's only right and only fair that I get some form of refund or credit for my stress and aggravation. He agreed, and he offered me a $50 credit. Now, that's not like a huge amount of money, but it's something, and I graciously accepted it. He then pushed my book once again through the pressing process and into the grading process, and within like 2.5 weeks of doing that, my book was back on its way back to me here. So that was essentially my customer service experience. And there are 3 things that I want to highlight about it. One is be cool. Don't be a jerk on the phone with customer service. You know, I understand people are upset, but you don't have to yell and scream. CGC is going to want to fix the problem for you. They're going to want to handle it for you, especially in a situation like this. So just let them do their thing and be cool about it. 2 is, of course, make sure that everything that you expect to see happen is on that order slip. If it's not on that order slip, It's not going to happen. And 3, be patient. CGC process takes a long time. We all understand this, especially when pressing is factored in. And when you've already waited 10 weeks to get your books back, and you get them back and they're damaged, and you have to send them away again for another 10 to 12 weeks, that's frustrating. But be patient. Even when they're not really communicating with you, be patient. If you're cool and patient, eventually they're going to respond, and they're going to respond appropriately. It's going to get handled. Okay, so now that we're done with this phase of the video, we're going to get to the phase that I can't wait to get to, and that is the unboxing. Wish me luck. Okay, now's the moment we've all been waiting for, and the moment that many of you probably fast-forwarded directly to, the unboxing. Now, a lot of people ask me, did I use UPS or USPS? The first time I used UPS, this time I used USPS. Now, I don't think there's that big of a difference between the two. USPS offers some more inherent, better insurance possibilities, but you can get insurance through other ways, even if you use USPS. So ultimately, I would say use the one that you're the most comfortable with, and consider getting insurance just in general, because I personally, there's a lot of stress and anxiety when it comes to waiting for these shipments to come, especially after my first experience. There's a lot of concern about damage or loss and stuff like that, and getting the appropriate amount of insurance is going to relieve some of that stress and anxiety to know that if anything bad does happen, that you're covered. But to me, the difference between UPS and USPS is functionally negligible, because as far as I'm concerned, both of them are equally as likely to drop your box. And my first shipment was dropped, definitely. But I don't hold UPS responsible for that. I hold CGC responsible for that, because it is not packed well enough. That first shipment was not packed well enough. Taking those 5 slabs and making them as compact as they were, wrapping them in a rubber band, and covering them with one piece of bubble wrap doesn't cut it. There's too much movement in the box, and so when you get it dropped, you get the kind of damage that I got. So, like I said, I hold CGC responsible, and it's part of the reason that I really appreciate that they stepped up and took care of it, because ultimately, I figured it was their responsibility to do so. So as we open these boxes, we're going to be looking at 5 different things. 1, we're going to be looking to see how well CGC packed this box. 2, we're going to be looking at whether or not there's any damage to any of the slabs. 3, we're going to make sure that all the special labels that I ordered are on the books just like they were originally. 4, we're going to make sure that all the grades that weren't supposed to change at all have indeed stayed the same. And 5, we're going to see what, if any, grade change I received for Uncanny X-Men number 266. Hopefully this second press got that crease out that gave it its original 9.2. Okay, let's do the unboxing. First thing I want to mention, I don't know if you can hear this, but there's definitely space for movement in there. There's a little bit of sliding. I can hear it each time that I move the box. Bad sign out the gate. There's a lot of tape here, this packing tape, and it's got a lot more stamps on the outside of it. They're all stamped. I mean, there's stamps all over the place. With the date, I think it was shipped October 7th. Okay, let's see. Okay, so, yeah, okay, so there is a decent amount of space in here. I don't love that. You'll see right here, I'm going to try my best to show you without dumping these all out onto the ground. You see all this space right here? Dude, stick another piece of bubble wrap in there so that this can't shift around. It doesn't seem that complicated, so I'm already a bit triggered by this. But let's go ahead and pull it out of the box. And it does look like it is wrapped in a single sheet of bubble wrap, just like the first one. Now, oh, and a whole side of it is blown out, just like the first one. If this is a repeat of my initial experience, wow, that's going to be a rough one. And I can slide these right out of the bubble wrap. And just to show you, you see this whole blown out section here? This is all flat through here. This is all flat through this. This part that's supposed to be protecting the sides is all blown out and flat. I am counting to 10. I am trying to breathe. I'm hoping for the best. Now let me see. Okay, I'm looking at the bottom of the books, and that's good. So this cardboard wasn't there before, so there's some extra protection, at least to reinforce the corners. So let's dig into it. I can tell this first one is, okay, let's save this one for last. That's the X-Men right there. That's the first Gambit right there. We're going to go backwards with these. Okay, so the first one is Amazing Spider-Man number 36. It's the September 11th tribute issue. Originally, this book got the 9.8. I can tell already it has the special label on it. It does not appear to be damaged. And let's see, did it retain its 9.8? Does it still have its 9.8? Let's see. Yes. Yes. Great. Excellent. Excellent. This is beautiful. I love this book with this label on it. Since it's an all-black cover and a tribute to New York in a lot of ways, I love that the New York City skyline is included on the cover of this book, and Spider-Man himself. This is one of my favorite special labels to put with this book because it's a solid black cover. This is great. Okay, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's in beautiful condition. Good start. Good start. All right, let's move on to, excuse me, Mr. Pumpkin. Let's move on to the second book. Let's see what it is. It is, let's see, first appearance of Dazzler, which I believe is X-Men number 130. Originally, this book received a 9.6. And it does look like the special label's on there because I see all this information in the back. There it is right there, you can see it. So let's just double check and make sure that it still has the 9.6 that it is supposed to have. Okay, what do you see there? Is it a 9.6? It is a 9.6. Great. Great, man. It looks so much better now that it's not smashed in every corner. I gotta tell you. Wow, that's fun. That's great. 9.6 on this, off-white to white pages. The first one was white pages. This one is off-white to white, just like it was before. Okay, so far, so good. Everything is as expected. Let's move on to the next one. This one is X-Men 107, first appearance of the Starjammers. Now, this book originally received a 9.4. Let's see, there's no damage, no problems. Let's just make, looks like it has a special label, so we're good there. Let's see, does it still have a 9.4? Bet it does. Yep. Yep, great. So that's really good. Yeah, and these cases look great. I'll be looking at them in more detail later. But right now, there is, I don't see any, let me not drop it and create damage right now. I don't see any scratches. I don't see any cracks. Everything's looking pretty good. You know, it's possible that that cardboard that they put in there helped a little bit, but man, they should just put extra bubble wrap in there, you know, so that there's no room for it to slip around. Anyways, I digress. Let's get back to it. Next, we have X-Men 104. This book is just gorgeous. I was looking back on the video. I can't wait to see this one. I think this book, just this yellow cover on this book, I think is just so good looking. And I was so happy that I got the 9.6 that I got on it originally. Now, let's see, did I get another 9.6? Did it keep its grade? Sure does look like it did. Yep. Man, this is a pretty book. I love this cover. I love this yellow cover, and I love this image. Wow. This is great. This is great. There's a little... It looks like there's a little bit of a crack in the case right here. Or is that just like tape or something? No, that's a little bit of a flaw. It doesn't look like impact damage, it just looks like manufacturing damage. We're going to have to look at that more closely, I think, when we do our post-unboxing, post-grading analysis. We'll talk about that in the next section of the video. But in general, it has the same thing it got. You know, both of these last two, as before, were off-white to white pages. And this one is a 9.6, just like it was originally. Okay, great. My reaction is a little bit more tempered this time because it was funny. In the original video, I was so excited about the grades and so upset about the damage at the same time. So right now the grades are as I expected, you know, so there's just a little bit of relief to know that all of that is there. So now the big one. Now the big one. Uncanny X-Men number 266. Now, originally this book received a 9.2. And it was my understanding that the 9.2 it received was justified as far as CGC was concerned because of a crease that was here in the bottom right-hand corner. Well, Matt Nelson said he'd do everything he could to make sure that the press made this book as good as possible. Let's see what it did to the grade, if anything. Okay, I gotta see it. You've seen it. I gotta see it. I gotta see it. I gotta see it. Still a 9.2. Still a 9.2. That's unbelievable to me. I don't see any crease in the bottom right-hand corner. And it still looks partially fanned here, which the second press should have lined up those pages perfectly. The crease from the impact damage looks like it is gone. It looks like it never happened. I mean, boy, that crease is gone. I almost have to ask myself, did they regrade it? Or did they just repress it and then reholder it and keep its old grade? They're not supposed to do that. I shouldn't think that, because they're not supposed to do that. If it gets a repress, if it gets taken out of this thing, it has to get regraded. They can't just be like, well, it was a 9.2 before, let's fix the damage that was there, and then let's just throw the 9.2 label back on there. Okay, so that's disappointing. I was really hoping for a bump in the grade. I thought it would go to a 9.4 at least. At least. Because I'm looking at this alleged crease that's supposed to be here in the corner, and it's like, I mean, I don't see anything. I'm kicking the light off of it. I don't see anything. Okay, so there's no damage, and it's the appropriate label, and there, yeah. So that aspect of it is confirmed, and there was no grade change. So that's disappointing, obviously, as you can tell. But maybe we'll follow up on that. So what we're going to do in the next section of this video is we're going to do our CGC post-grading analysis and take a look at the grades up against how they look right now in their holders. A little disappointed at this section, but so it goes. At least they're not damaged, at least they're back, at least they're here. So now let's talk about the grades. Now we are going to take a look at these books from the highest grade to the lowest grade, starting with this 9.8, The Amazing Spider-Man number 36, Volume 2. Now take a look at the spine on this book. There are several spine stresses on this spine. You can see them clear as day. Also, I'm going to point out that there's that little white spot that we talked about before next to the staple on the cover. Apparently that white spot, and yeah, see that stress there, and that one, and there's a bunch. Oh, there's also that little mark there underneath the S. That's actually in the case. That's not on the book. But I just want to point out that even with that little white spot in the black ink on the front cover, and even with all of those little spine stresses, this book is still a 9.8. There's also all those white dots. Those are actually inside the holder. That's dust from when it was encapsulated at CGC. There's no getting that out, and you only notice it on a black cover. You also notice what a great mirror it makes. Hi. Yeah, the back looks perfect. The back looks total 9/8 all the way. But I just want to talk about that dust again one more time. Clearly, CGC is not encapsulating these books in a sterile environment, so there is dust and particulate floating around in the air that does get trapped inside the holder when they do that. Anybody who's ever tried to put a picture inside a frame, knows how difficult it can be to make sure to get all the dust out of there, and this is a similar situation. In most instances, you're not going to see that dust, but on a book like this that's solid black, that dust is a little bit of a bummer, but so it goes. Next up, let's take a look at X-Men 104 in a 9.6. Now, right off the bat, I want you to pay special attention to two areas. The first is next to Magneto's bicep there on the edge of the book. You see that mark right there? Remember that mark. We're going to talk about it more in just a moment. The next is on the edge of the holder opposite the UPC symbol here. That's a little bit of damage that gave me pause when I was doing the unboxing. That's just a manufacturing defect. I'm going to have to live with it. That mark, though, next to his bicep, I don't know about that mark. That mark could be a manufacturing defect when the book was originally printed. It could also be damage that happened after the fact. I don't know. It's also funny because I haven't been talking about that mark at all. I went back and I looked at my analysis of this book when it was raw, and I didn't mention anything about that mark. So I don't know why I've been ignoring it, because it's pretty obvious and it's pretty there. So I think it's a very good candidate for why this book got a 9.6. In general, this book is a lot of guesswork of like, well, maybe it was because of this, maybe it was because of that. Like maybe it was because the white of this book is supposed to be whiter here on the back cover. I don't know. I'm not expert enough to know just how white it's supposed to be. It looks pretty white to me. The edge of this book is a little frayed, the cut there. But once again, that's a printing thing. I wouldn't get dinged for that. The bottom right-hand corner has a little bit of a tag right there. That absolutely could be a reason that this book got a 9.6. It could also be the little bit of black speckling that's there at the top there. That could be the reason. It's definitely not because of the staple not being aligned with the spine, because that would be a printing thing. It wouldn't hurt the grade. All in all, I think it's pretty deserving of its 9.6. Next, we have X-Men 130 at a 9.6. This book is similar to 104 that we just looked at in that after it's press and clean and encapsulation, I think it looks amazing. It looks practically perfect. It has similar, once again, little spine stresses, nothing that's color breaking along the spine, and especially considering that it's up against this black cover, it's pretty amazing that they are not more clear to see. But the rest of this book just looks fantastic, fantastic. You know, as I talk about these spine stresses that I see on these books, I really wish that a press would take out all of them. I don't understand why a press doesn't fix all that stuff, but maybe some of them are so small and so tight that you can't eliminate them completely. But thankfully, it seems like it doesn't affect the grade very significantly. Now, the back of this book has something very interesting that I'm going to keep a secret at first, and I'm going to see if you see it as we pan along the side here. I'll tell you, it is right in the center now. Now, did you see it? We're going to go back and we're going to talk about it in just a moment. Now, I don't think it's the reason it got a 9.6, because if it is the reason it got a 9.6, it should have actually gotten a much lower grade. I think it's got a 9.6 because of some of similar issues of like black speckling and stuff that issue 104 had. But let's talk about what I just pointed out that it was probably pretty easy to miss, because I missed it several times until just recently. These fingerprints right there. They're right there on the edge of the box, to the left, to the right, below. They're all over the place. Now, if you've been watching my videos, you know that I received a 9.4 on an X-Men 134 because of a fingerprint. And here are fingerprints all over the place. I'm so lucky I got the 9.6 on this book. Next up, we have X-Men 107 in a 9.4. Now, compared to the other grades that we're looking at here, this grade begins to make sense to me. Frankly, I would have given it a 9.0 or a 9.2, so I'm very happy with the 9.4. But it getting a lower grade makes sense to me because of all of these color-breaking spine ticks along the spine there. There's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. They are hard to miss, and they absolutely influenced the grade negatively. Now, I want you to take a mental picture of those color-breaking spine ticks. because that will become relevant when we look at our fifth and final book. But as far as this book is concerned, I mean, those spine ticks, they aren't tiny. They've got a little bit of length to them, and they're definitely color breaking. They are what I would consider to be significant. Not majorly significant, but significant. The rest of the front of this book looks really, really good otherwise. It's a shame when you have such small defects because they affect the grade so negatively when the rest of the book looks so fantastic. The back of this book looks really good as well. I am guessing that the back of this book should be wider, especially along the edges. The edges look a bit yellowed. They look a bit oxidized. They look like they're a little worse for wear when it comes to exposure to the elements. So I have to think that that also played a factor in this grade. But other than that, it looks really good. Some of those spine ticks wrap around to the back, but the back in general looks pretty good. That looks like a 9.4 back to me. Now we're going to look at our fifth and final book. It is the Uncanny X-Men number 266 and a 9.2. My heart's still a little bit broken about the grade on this book. It was the only one that was below my expectations. But in analysis after the fact, I'm kind of starting to understand why. There are some minor color breaking spine ticks. We're going to get to those in a moment. But first, let's talk about the damage that was caused when this box was dropped and that impact damage there. Well, they pressed it right out. It is completely gone. You would never even know that it happened. But do look at all these minor color breaking spine ticks. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one. Yeah, there's a handful of them, but compare them to the color-breaking spine ticks that were on X-Men 107 that we just looked at. They are nothing compared to those spine ticks. Yet this book got a 9.2, and that book got a 9.4. Now I keep asking myself the question, why? Why did this get a lower grade? Well, it's this corner here. This, once again, from the grader notes, is the light crease in the bottom right-hand corner. That's the picture Matt Nelson sent me. And this is me trying to find that crease again now that it's back home with me. I cannot see it at all. I tried all of these different angles. I'm looping around. I'm trying to bounce the light off of it from all of these different angles. I cannot see it at all. I even proceeded to take a series of stills from a bunch of different angles under different lighting conditions to try to find that crease, and I found one picture that showed that crease, and there it is. You can barely see it there. This was so difficult to find. I even recontacted Matt Nelson at CGC, and I asked him, did you indeed re-examine this book after it was pressed, and did they do everything that they possibly could to get it out? He wrote me back very quickly, and I really appreciated that. He said that he did re-examine the book after pressing to confirm the grade, and that the crease was still there, which is why it stayed a 9.2. He says usually a crease will be more visible, but he admitted that this one is indeed hard to see. And I guess I also have to admit that if I look really hard, I can also see that crease there. He says that even though it's flat, it still broke the paper fibers and it could not fully come out. That is why this received a 9.2. So keep in mind, there could be a defect you can barely even see, but they will. Before I wrap this up, I want to make one more point about something that I found interesting, and it has to do with grader notes. Now, previously, I always thought, well, if it's not a 9.8, it should come with grader notes. If it's not a 9.8, that means there is some observable flaw, and they should just jot it down so that I know exactly why I got the grade that I got through the grader's notes. And I've had books that got 9.4s that didn't have grader notes, definitely 9.6s. And it's sometimes really frustrating because you think, I want this communication, I want this feedback from CGC. But here's the deal. Grader notes are not for me. They're not for you. They're for graders. They are internal communication between graders at CGC to communicate or flag certain defects that one grader observed to another one. They're not for you. The fact that they share them with you, I guess, is a courtesy. The fact that they charge for them in certain instances is ridiculous. But it helped me understand why I'm not receiving grader notes. Everything about the grading that they're doing, a lot of it is so subjective and has nothing to do with anything specific. But if they do see something specific, they jot it down so that other graders know to keep an eye out for it. I found this very, very interesting and useful information, and it helped kind of curb my expectation when it came to getting grader notes on a book. Well, that wraps up this video. I am really pretty proud of this video, and I'm not proud of this video in a way of like, look at me, look how great I am and what an amazing job I've done. I'm proud of this video because I really feel like there's a lot of useful information in it. I know that I learned a lot making this video, and I really hope that I've been able to share some of that knowledge with you. I've learned a lot about the CGC customer service experience, and I hope I gave you some advice that will help you how to handle the situation if you unfortunately ever have the need to go through it yourself. Also, I think this video provided a really great opportunity to look at grades from 9.8 to 9.6 to 9.4 to 9.2. This grade range is one of the most subjective grade ranges, I believe, in all of grading, and also one of the most significant and important grade ranges, because between a 9.2 and a 9.8 you can see a lot of value difference. And to have a deeper, better understanding of what makes a 9.2 versus a 9.4 versus a 9.6 versus a 9.8 can potentially help you out in the wild as you're picking up books raw to know, like, hey, this is a 9.8 all the way, or ooh, this one might be a 9.2, maybe I should hold out for a better book. Hopefully this will make you a better, smarter shopper out in the wild of raw books, but then also when it comes to submitting books, because there are some books that just aren't worth submitting if they were a 9.2. I might not have submitted Uncanny X-Men number 266 if I thought it was going to come back a 9.2. So it's good to have a great understanding of what determines different grades in this range. I also learned from this video that sometimes CGC is going to catch things that I would never see in a million years. And conversely, sometimes they're going to miss things that I don't know how they missed it, especially when they are catching other things. But all in all, I think that there was a lot of great information with this video. I'm so glad that you've stuck it out to the end to watch the whole thing. I really hope that you benefited in watching it as much as I benefited in making it. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, likes are always appreciated. They're very encouraging. Thank you for them as always. If you're interested in seeing more of this content, I plan on definitely doing more of these videos in addition to my Just One Book videos and other content on this channel. If you're interested in that, I recommend you hit the subscribe guy, of course, and hit the notification bell so that you are informed when I post new videos. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.